Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Johnny Cleveland podcast. It is a Wednesday evening, October 15th, and if you are watching us live, it does look like there's a little technical glitch here, Doug, but we do have a special guest here. My buddy, my best friend from long ago in high school, Doug Lair from Wooster, Ohio. Worcester High School, the marching generals, the fighting generals. Very happy to have you on tonight, Doug. And Doug is a ginormous Cleveland fan, faithful Ohio State Buckeye fan. Doug, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm fantastic, John. I'm a little bit fired up by the play of our Brownies, but I think a lot of Clevelanders are right now. But no, I'm great. I appreciate the invite to be on the podcast with you.
Well, it's if you're a lifelong fan like we have been, talking about Cleveland sports teams from the Indians or now the Guardians to the Browns can be a daily thing, and that there's the ups and the downs. And so again, we're in the midst of this Browns season right now, and before we get into all of that, Doug, we've been friends for a while, and he and I have witnessed many of these great moments or not so great moments in Cleveland sports history when we talk about things like the drive. And Doug reminded me about a couple other things. I think I was at your house for the Cavs game. You want to explain what
the shot? Oh yeah, yeah. Michael Jordan over Craig Elo. Just moments before we thought we were headed to the finals and stealing victory from the agony of defeat, or however it goes. Yeah.
Yes. So we've been together in many of these moments. So it's just such a cool thing to have Doug come on tonight. And we've gone our separate ways. We have our separate lives, families, all these great things. And so it's fun when we can come back and on these podcasts and reconnect. We've had these social media platforms. I know, Doug, you and I stay connected sometimes through Facebook, and I know like even our high school classmates, I know there's a Facebook page out there. So it's a good way to stay connected. It
sure is.
But yeah. So, okay, Doug, well, the Browns are struggling right now, and wanted to kind of get into all that with you. I know we've texted before, and we wanted to debate one another on some of these subjects, and I'm sure Doug might have a different opinion. So let's just start with the fact that the Browns are 1-5. And
yep.
At this point, we've transitioned from old man Joe Flacco, who got the first few games, who then got traded surprisingly to the Cincinnati Bengals. Then we have Dillon Gabriel now stepping up. He got to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, threw the ball 52,000 times, and will now get a chance to play a home game against the Miami Dolphins, who are also 1-5. So two teams coming in struggling. Let's start with the quarterback play. Dillon Gabriel's coming in. He's our first rookie who got drafted in the third round. Then we have Shedeur Sanders, who was also drafted by the Browns, who now is the primary new backup. So what are your observations on Dillon Gabriel? Let's start with that and what has happened to get to this point.
Well, in my household, John, his nickname with me is Check Down Charlie. I just and to be honest with you, they drafted him because he's cerebral, he's very smart, and he's accurate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they didn't draft him because of his size. They didn't draft him because of his arm strength, and they really didn't draft him because he can push the ball down the field, and that is increasingly evident. But at the same time, I think that he is playing within the framework, within the guardrails of Kevin Stefanski's offense, and I think that it's a double-edged sword, right? That he can't push the ball down the field. We don't have either, and I have not watched film, so I'll be very transparent about that. I see the view on TV. Like most fans do. So I can't always tell if it's the receivers not being able to get open or if the line isn't giving him enough time. Well, we know that the line is not giving him enough time.
Right.
But but then they have to play nearly perfect football. And when
Right.
Fannin and Njoku and Judy are dropping passes, especially big plays that can make a difference down the stretch in a close game, it kills you. And so subsequently, because he can't push the ball downfield, they're playing 11 guys in the box. They're playing much closer to the line of scrimmage, which then Stefanski and Gabriel are checking out of because they don't want to run into this defense. So then they're passing, and when you can't play more than 5 yards downfield, it's just a losing scenario all the way around.
It's driving, I think, most fans crazy. How do we shift this now? So we got a game against the lowly Dolphins. Obviously, everybody coming into the game before this past week against the Squealers, I wasn't anticipating Dylan Gabriel, dropping back 58 times and throwing the ball 52 times. Right, 52 times. Do you? I mean, we got to get back to Quinshon Judkins, right?
Well,
but how do we do that with the offensive line?
Well, and that is the conundrum that we're in, is that when defenses know that they're not afraid of you throwing the ball over top of them, they're going to play much tighter to the line in the box, prevent the front, because right now Judkins is about your only offensive weapon that you have, and if they can shut that down, then you're forced to 3-yard dump offs to Harold Fannin.
Yeah.
So I think here's where I think this is going to happen. We have two very winnable games, and I feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to win both of them. We've got better personnel, a better football team, and quite frankly, our defense, if nothing else, should win the game for us just alone. However, with that being said, I think these next two games are going to likely be more of the same because we should be able to win playing the football that we've played. But beyond that, John, if nothing changes, Shedeur coming in is not going to change anything. This is a historically bad offense. It's just not going to make a difference. And when Shedeur is dropping back and drifting 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage trying to escape the pass rush, and get sacked 5 out of 7 dropbacks or whatever it is, that's not going to win. The only way, we're just going to have to, sadly, the factory of sadness that is the Cleveland Browns, we're just going to have to live through this. We still have a long season ahead of us, John.
Yeah, no, that's depressing.
And I think the only way that we're going to likely be able to turn this tide is to take some chances and risks that we don't do, and see whether Gabriel can push the ball downfield. See whether Sanders, can do this.
How did so Stefanski's, the whole thing about Stefanski coming out of Minnesota and when he was the offensive coordinator and then he got the job, he's been with us for 6 years, is that he was just supposed to be this offensive guru, and now we have this offense that's just stuck in the mud, and we're not showing progression. I mean, are you surprised by this with Stefanski because of his background and where we're at? Does that not surprise you?
Well, you and others on the Fanatical Elves have talked about, that, he's a 2-time Coach of the Year winner and this and that. And, what have you done for us lately? And the reality is that it hasn't been a whole lot. And I've actually started to hear whispers that And the whole Deshaun Watson fiasco was truly a fiasco, but you tried to bring a quarterback in who played very spontaneous, had broken plays that he was able to make successful, and that's not anything close to the type of offense that Stefanski runs. And I've heard some pundits say, is Stefanski, everyone wanted to blame Watson, but is Stefanski potentially at blame here? And I look at what the offense that we have right now. Now, granted, personnel is certainly an issue. The offensive line is decimated.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just have not seen anything from Stefanski's offense. And even when Old Man Joe back in 23 had that miraculous second half run.
Yes.
You don't need to teach a Super Bowl MVP how to play quarterback. He may not have the same skill set, but he, I tell people, like, when you golf, I see that your
Yes.
pictures on Facebook, and
Yes.
you like, but John, my question is if you're sitting 230 yards out on the fairway,
Yes.
are you a player that pulls the 3-wood out of his bag? And I laugh at people who do that, because I'm like, that shot is not in your bag, my friend. Yeah. That shot is not in your bag. And with Joe Flacco, that shot was in his bag. He could rip it right off the fairway.
Yeah.
And so Stefanski didn't have to do a lot with him.
Yeah.
But when it comes to transforming and mentoring and coaching up these prospects,
yeah,
he's failed miserably at it.
Oh, I agree. Well, I agree with you. I do. I've been probably more critical than some people on our network. And I the 2-time coaching thing for me, I mean, I don't like, I understand that, and I know people will say, well, he got the team to the playoffs twice. True. That is fact. I mean, the Browns did go to the playoffs in 2020 and 2023, but we're not seeing much. Like, and we've had all these quarterbacks come through, and some people say, well, he's done all these things with very little talent at the quarterback position, like PJ Walker. We won a game with PJ Walker, but
and DTR.
I'm not, DTR. Like, for me right now, like, if they especially if they continue to lose, especially like if they lose to the Dolphins at home, I mean, the rumblings right now are starting the rumble. It's going to be maxed out at the end of Sunday if they lose to the Dolphins. I don't think he saves his job.
Yeah, I agree with you. And if he were to lose, especially to the Jets, I think, he might be able to survive losing to the Dolphins, but losing to the Jets right now, they're just a mess.
Yeah.
I think that just the screams from the fans would be enough that Haslam would fear losing stadium revenue by people not showing up. And I think you're already starting to see that. But just going back to the 2 playoff appearances that we had with Stefanski, I would argue that both of those playoff runs, now granted, Flacco had 5 games in a row where he threw for 300 yards or something like that. Again, I would think that's more Flacco than it was Stefanski, and quite frankly, I would argue that it was Jim Schwartz and our defense that got us to that point, as opposed to Stefanski.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're bringing up some obvious points, and that's where Doug, where right now, I mean, you've listened to our show and you listen to other podcasters and other people talking about the Browns. It's just become such a real split, in my opinion, that there's and I guess I should say it's been a split, but now it's fracturing, because we're 1-5 again, and people coming into last season were really taken aback by the fact that this team ended up 3-14. They're like, if you recall, Doug, you go back, not this past offseason, but the season before, when they were coming off that playoff stretch with Flacco. I mean, the height of fandom was really high there for the Browns. Fans were excited going into that last season, and they just tanked. They were terrible, 3-14. And now here we are again, Doug, 1-5, same record as the guy that got fired in Tennessee earlier this week. Brian Callahan. So what do you think about that, with the firing there, and then Callahan and his dad potentially maybe coming back to Cleveland on a kind of a
Well, I'd love it if his dad would come back. We could certainly use more of what he did for our offensive line, but it does not surprise me. I think just on Monday evening of this week, Lou said NFL is not for long. The sad thing is, what in the hell did the ownership group think that coach was going to be able to do with that team and with a rookie quarterback?
Well, Tennessee is a mess. If you listen to Steve Gill, his dog pound, he's from Nashville, and so he's always talking about how Tennessee is just a terrible organization from top to bottom.
I would tell you, John, that to some degree, while fans don't want to hear this, part of the losing culture that Cleveland has established here with the Browns is that it's constant turnover, constant culture change. We're constantly changing, defensive line schemes and offensive play calling and this. And when you're constantly in a state of change, you can never get comfortable. You can never become, an expert in certain systems. And so to some degree, I applaud Jimmy and Dee Haslam. What they're trying to do with him is hold on to him to create some level of consistency.
Yeah.
But, Paul DePodesta and this analytics department, holy cow. What analytics are you looking at? Because this is a historically bad offense. They are in the bottom 3 in every statistical offensive category, John.
Yes.
Ever.
Oh, yeah. They've never addressed, we had those stretches where we had some wide receivers, people, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. for a moment there. And, but that's always been a part of the team that's never been addressed properly through the draft or whatnot. We've got some trades. Amari Cooper came in for a little bit, and that kind of sparked some real interest, but it is continuing just to be awful. I mean, people are just this. I mean, we're averaging 12.8 points a game or 13 points a game right now. We haven't gotten over, 15 or 17 points for like 14 or 15 games going back to last year. I know it's a new season, but do you expect the Browns to score 20 points or more against Miami?
Probably not, but I still think they win the game.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I would, John, we have a Super Bowl winning defense, I believe. The problem is that they have to play with perfection every single game. Yeah. And the longer that you play, the longer that you're on the field, the more opportunity there are for mistakes. Yeah.
We got bailed out. The defense bailed us out in those closing moments of the Green Bay game. Thankfully they did, and we got a win. It was dramatic in the last 3 minutes, the turnover and and then the winning field goal by Andre Schmitz. So that was a great moment early on in the season, but we haven't been able to repeat that. But our defense, I guess the part of the defense that I concerns me, and especially after you listened to Myles Garrett this past week, and the players are dejected. How much effort are they going to really put into it? Obviously, they're coming home. They're going to have the home crowd there. Now, I would like to think that the home crowd will be behind them, but they're 1-5, and so I will be up there with I'm going up with my stepson Clay, and so, but I'm anxious to see what the crowd and the feel of that environment is like when we get up there. But what do you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's human nature, right?
Right. Yeah.
Garrett makes $40 million a year, whatever the number is. Yeah. And but I get it. I mean, no one wants to lose, and losing becomes contagious, and you become dejected, and it's hard to get motivated. But I will tell you that there is not a single person on the planet that wants to hear poor Myles Garrett. He had his chance to leverage getting out of Cleveland, and the $40 million per year completely changed everything. And so you and I will go through 20 generations of our family and never be able to accumulate the wealth that he is making in 1 year. Combined, John. Yeah. And poor Myles Garrett, seriously, every Friday that he gets that deposit into his checking account, I'm sure he lights up a big stogie and is really happy about that, because holy smokes, I don't feel bad for him at all.
No,
I mean,
that's
at the human level, of course. But you've got to find a way. If you're a $40 million player, you got to get up for the game, and you got to get your teammates up. That's what you're being paid.
That's the real criticism of him that I've always talked about, is that I don't consider him a leader. Like I don't feel that he's the inspiring guy that players in that locker room really, it was great. I had an opportunity to be in the locker room after they beat Green Bay and got to listen to some of the players. And that was exciting to kind of get a sense of, who and what the players were talking about. Grant Delpit, for example, you could sense a little bit listening to his conversation about the team. Like, I think Grant Delpit is one of those guys on the defense that probably is. And then some of the guys in the line, like the Shelby Harris guy who got the block against the Green Bay team. He's a veteran. He's been around.
Yep.
I see players like that kind of be more of those vocal leaders. So that's exciting to see on that end, because I think, like you have already said, Doug, and we already know, like, our defense is really what we're going to hang our hats on.
Of course.
Hey, Doug, let's pause for a quick commercial break. This is the Johnny Cleveland podcast, part of the Fanatical Elves Network. We'll be right back. We are back here on the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Thanks to Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. They shake the hand of the farmer. Check them out. They're on our X page. It's great coffee, Doug. You should, Doug, you need to buy some Hemisphere coffee. I'm telling you, Laura and I have been buying that stuff for 10 years or 8 years now. And it's a little shop up in Mechanicsburg, Ohio, just to the north. North and west, I think, of Columbus. But I actually went up to up there with Laura a couple years ago and got to meet the people that are working up there, and it's great coffee. So we will not drink.
I want to know their branding agency, Shakes the Hand of the Farmer. Classic. Yeah, I love that.
Should check out their website, Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. So just a small little group here in Ohio, but we appreciate them supporting us. Okay, Doug, we're talking about what the Browns need to do. Let's get into this game here, Miami, and then what we're looking at down the line here. You think the Browns are going to win Sunday? You feel pretty good about that?
I do. Again, their offense is not showing me anything to give me optimism that they're going to eclipse the 20-point margin, but Miami's a mess.
Okay.
They're the wide receiver who busted up his ankle, Hill, Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek, yeah.
He's not going to be playing.
Okay.
No, he's done for the season. But that was a big weapon of theirs, and I think this is a game that I think Miles could really peel his ears back and go after Tua. Yeah. And certainly don't want to see Tua get injured. But I have concerns
Miles,
about that guy playing.
Miles hasn't had that. He had a good start to the season for the first 2-3 games.
Yeah, he didn't really show it all last week.
No, I saw some stat earlier today that they said he's only had like a half sack in the last 4 games. Just not, doing a lot. I know he gets double teamed and all of that, and it's got to be frustrating, but
triple teamed. Yeah.
Yeah. He is, kind of tailed off a little bit. Are you concerned at all about Myles Garrett right now? As far as on the field?
No, not really. I mean, he's an all-world player. I mean, he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm not worried about him. Now, could some of his attitude that trickle into his play? Sure.
Yeah.
But the more you play, the longer you play, the more teams are going to figure out how to scheme against you. I'm not worried about him. I think he'll be fine. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we play the Dolphins, and are we on our bye then, or do we go to the? No, we play New England. We go to New England before then we go.
I do not feel confident about that game at all.
New England, yeah.
New England's playing really good. Yeah, right. Vrabel's got them playing really solid football right now.
Yeah, so we go out there. That's going to be a struggle. Then we finally get our bye. But then there's some, when we come back, there are still a couple more winnable games down the line. We got the Jets. You mentioned the Jets. The Jets haven't won a game this season, so that should be one that we can look at. Do you see this team winning? Like, they've won 1 game. Are you expecting that they can win at least a handful more games? And I guess the bigger question, Doug, is what should we as Browns fans? What are you going to be watching for, and what do you want to see that improves for this team as the season continues?
Yeah, Herm Edwards. I think it was Herm Edwards that once says, "We are who our record says we are," and right now we're a 1-win football team. So now some people might, and I think at times maybe John, your optimism would say, "Well, we should have won that Cincinnati game, so we could have been 2-1, or we could have 2 wins, and we should have won the Minnesota game over in London. So really, we could be a 3-win team." The reality is that we lost those 2, and we should have lost to the Packers. So we could be a winless team right now. I think we're looking at a 4 or 5 win team this season. But I know that the trade deadline's coming up. I think that there's some opportunities that, I mean, it's going to make the team worse, but Tonio's on the last year of his contract. He came back for this horse crap, which is unfortunate. He's the guy that I feel bad for.
Yes.
Njoku, I think could draw some interest, and especially since we've got Fannin as a backup who's getting lots of playing time. I think trading Njoku probably wouldn't be a bad move. Wyatt Teller. But again, you're going to be diminishing what quality we have remaining on this football team. But and I know that you wanted to talk a little bit about this stadium.
Yeah.
And as I think about the stadium and some of the moves that are taking place now, I think they're taking the playbook of the Cleveland Indians when they moved into Jacobs Field back in 93?
94,
whatever it was. And they were ready to compete with a great team. And I think that's potentially what they could be looking at right now, is that they aren't necessarily trying to rebuild for next year. Because if they draft a quarterback, like everybody thinks they probably will, then there's going to be more years of development in hopes that maybe come 2029 we'll have a competitive football team to put in that new stadium.
So before we get to that stadium in 2029, just a couple of things. So you're behind Dylan Gabriel, kind of seeing what he does here over the next several weeks. Do you see?
I wouldn't say several. I think you give him, maybe play him up to the bye. You got to give the kid a chance. You got to let him see. But I also think that you have to, if he throws 4 interceptions in a game, then let him throw 4 interceptions in a game. But we've got to be able to see what this guy can do besides throwing the football 3 yards down the field.
I got you.
And
what about Shedeur?
I know that you're a big fan of his, and you think that Gabriel's going to be a career backup, and that Shedeur's the real deal. I remember you saying because he's handling the media. I don't give a crap how he's handling the media. I just want wins at this point, baby.
Right.
But some people say, well, that what was the preseason game that he played so poorly in? Carolina, whoever it was, I forget who it was, and they say, well, you put him in with, you just said it on Monday night. You put him in with an offensive line that are bagging groceries right now down at the local Walmart, and I would argue that Snoop came in and ran that 2-minute drill with the same third-string offensive line and ran the team down for a touchdown.
Good observation.
The kid is just obviously he's got talent. Does he has talent to be a starting quarterback in the NFL? I'm not so sure.
You're not so sure.
But we've got to be able to see what these guys can do, and I think you got to let.
Well, if he lays an egg, if both of these guys lay an egg, I at least want to see them lay an egg. So let us see that, and I think that's what's driving some fans who are supporting Shedeur. We just give us the opportunity to see the guy. And if they're going to draft somebody else in a future draft next year or the year after, we give us the opportunity to see these guys, especially Shedeur, because a lot of fans are just enamored with that. So that's what I'd like to see.
Let me ask you. So you've been very complimentary of this kid and how he's handled the media, and he goes to John Hayes High School or whatever, and talks to their senior class. But what was this crap a couple of weeks ago where he's pantomiming his response in the interview? Give me your thing. That was such a bonehead move.
Well, I agree to you in some context that, it was a bonehead move, but I think that's where the immaturity and kind of being silly, stupid, responding to a more stupid idiot, in my opinion, the coach on ESPN that was, and I was pretty critical of him. I just think that he's a bonehead as well. So I don't know if that, Shedeur was inspired by family members or he just decided in the last second to do that because, obviously he must have heard about what's his face, whoever that coach is, Rex Ryan telling him to shut up and play. So I think it was not in his best interest. Obviously, didn't get a lot of positive play. I think he was just playing games, obviously, but no, it's not the best move. Yeah.
I think it just shows his immaturity. I know that I can't imagine that the Browns haven't invested into media training with him and how to interview. And there's plenty of ways that he could have just said, hey, I'm happy for Dylan. I'm going to and for the most part, Sanders has said and done the right things. Hey, I'm continuing. I'll be ready when they call my name. But that was just.
What do you think, though? Like the whole thing, like we're talking in that context, like his father's primetime, Dion. You know, you saw maybe some highlights. You see some highlights this past week where Shiloh and his mom came to Pittsburgh. I don't know if you saw any of those like clips where Shiloh.
I haven't.
It was hilarious. Shiloh actually imitated, was wearing a Sanders jersey, had shades on, and actually went to Pittsburgh and convinced a few fans that he was Shedeur. This is like before the game started. It was hilarious. And then Shiloh and his mom after the game, they talked to Shedeur outside, and it was just, it's interesting. I mean, you can see how Shedeur is still very young. He's in his early 20s. He's still learning. I just wonder, like, you know, long term for him. I mean, obviously he needs to go through some of these things with the Browns to see what he can do. And Doug, if he doesn't work out, and I already said, if he lays an egg, so be it. Like him running 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage does not bode well for him if he's going to continue to do that. Hopefully he can correct that. If he doesn't, then so be it. I just think it's such an interesting thing for me when I think about probably what's going on, because like primetime. I mean, Doug, you and I grew up with primetime. Primetime, Dion was like everywhere. He did baseball. He did football. He was like the star of stars back in the day. I mean, it was glam. And now Shedeur, for me, at least, the persona that he gives, and I know things are different. He's in front of a camera and everything, but his demeanor and how he reacts to things is just different, right? I don't think he does. He doesn't come across as this crass sort of. I think he's more humble, in my opinion.
Well, I hope so. I mean, when he was in college, there were times where he was throwing his offensive line under the bus. People were being critical of his play, and he's saying, I don't have enough time to throw the ball. You know, he's constantly pointing to his fancy watch, and he's driving his Maybach, and I don't know.
Well, those are good points. You know, those are observations. Like I'm not as in tune with that, especially coming out. I think the thing that when he got drafted, and what I was looking at before, because initially a lot of people thought he would be drafted in the first round, one of some of the first picks. I think that the offense and watching his film, and I'm not a film watcher that much, but just watching how he reacted in the pocket. I know he got sacked a lot, but it was more in line with what Stefanski's offense is.
Well, he was an accurate passer, despite the fact that he didn't have a lot of time in college. He was an accurate passer. Yeah. And that is a tenet of the Kevin Stefanski offense. You've got to be accurate. You got to make smart decisions.
Yeah.
And so you're right. No one expected him to fall to the fifth round, but and so
why did he? In your opinion, why did he fall? Is it prime time? Is it the family?
I'm not an insider. I don't know. At the end of the day, football organizations need to win, and if the kid didn't have a personality, or he had a bad attitude in the interviews, but they felt that he was good enough to win, then you're going to draft him. That's all there is to it. And so I've got to believe that there were concerns over his tools and his performance. Yeah. There are a lot of, Deion Sanders family supporters, especially pundits on ESPN and Fox Sports and others, that think that the Browns are doing this to Sanders because of his last name. I don't know. I heard Jim Rome, a famous radio, Jim Rome. Yeah, he said the Browns aren't holding him back because of his last name. He is still on this team because of his last name. I've got to believe that, Kevin Stefanski, his staff will know more about football than I will ever know, and they'll know it more. They'll forget more and know more in their thumbnail than I would ever know. And if the kid was good enough to play, they would play him. I've got to believe that. I've got to believe that.
Kevin Stefanski gets criticized by a lot of people that don't think that he's like a football guy, or he's more of an analytical sort of smart guy from Penn. And I was mentioning this offline to you before he came on, but Kevin Smith, who works for Fans First as well over in Pittsburgh, he's interviewed Kevin Stefanski a couple of times, and when I've talked to Kevin Smith, the way that he describes Kevin Stefanski, and Kevin Smith is a coach at the high school levels and stuff. I mean, he describes Kevin as extremely, just a great coach, just how he works with players and how he can break down, plays.
Probably very cerebral, but
yeah.
There is also an element of being a leader of men and instilling confidence, and there has to be that gravitas.
Yeah.
Look at Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions. His players would probably run through a brick wall for him.
But Kevin Stefanski isn't that, right? I mean,
look at some of his post-game locker room speeches when they win.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it almost feels like it's forced, like he's trying to. It's not natural for him to try to get the team fired up. And
see, Doug, I kind of agree with you there. I agree with you a lot. And actually, I've had that opinion of him, and I've shared that same opinion over the years with even some of my colleagues here in Fans First. It's interesting because when you start bringing that up, immediately the defense by those people that support Kevin are, well, he hasn't lost the locker room. He hasn't lost the locker room. I said, yeah, but Doug, I agree with you. Even in those moments where they're winning or they've won games, it does feel like a forced thing. And you don't feel like the Dan Campbell. And then some people say, well, Dan Campbell's just a hothead. And I said, well, damn it, he's winning, man. The Lions are a successful team because of what he's doing and the culture that he's helped build to create that atmosphere. So I'm with you, man. I mean, I'm still like, I want Kevin to succeed because, like you mentioned earlier too, I think the ownership from the Haslams, they want to try to continue this
create some stability.
Stability as they get into this period where they're going toward this new dome stadium. But man, I just don't know, Doug. I don't know how long they can hold on to Kevin and Andrew Berry.
Even if they hold on to him, do you think that he's going to be here when that stadium opens? I would say that the likelihood is zero. John, I asked ChatGPT today. I said, ChatGPT, I'm getting ready to go on the Johnny Cleveland podcast tonight.
Amen.
I said, give this to me real. I've been a lifelong fan of this football program, of this football team. And outside of about 3 or 4 winning years in the late 80s, of which we've already chatted about, I said, this team has been beyond deplorable, unwatchable. They miss on draft picks. They miss on free agents. And what is the likelihood, even statistically, that bad ownership, bad coaching could produce this type of result? And here's and I'll summarize what it said to me. John, where is the absolute worst place that a football team can be at the end of the year? About 500, because they're not good enough to make the playoffs and they're not bad enough to get a top draft pick, right?
Right.
So if you were to say a 500 football team is average, well, average means that's no better or no worse than a coin flip. And they said if you were to coin flip every season, every play, every game for the last 40 years, do you know what the chances are that they could be this bad? It is fractions of less than 1%, John, statistically speaking. We are living through football hell right now.
Right. Well, a lot of people,
and you know what?
I know.
No, go ahead.
Like, I just want to bring this up too, because what you're talking about is this premise, like, okay, this team was, booted out of Cleveland. They were stolen from us by Art Modell. They were taken to Baltimore. The NFL did us no favors. They got us the team back. We fought for our team, like Lou has mentioned. We get this team back in '99, but the NFL didn't do us any favors, and so we basically have been living this nightmare, and it just continues to recycle.
Do you remember, a little trivia quiz, do you remember our draft pick from that supplemental draft when we first came back, who our first pick was?
Of the supplemental draft?
Yeah, when we came back.
Yeah.
In 99. No. Jim Pine, offensive guard, I believe.
Jim Pine. Oh, wow.
Yeah. yeah. No, but it's been atrocious. But football in cities like Cleveland,
Yeah.
it's what makes Cleveland who it is. It's our DNA. It's blue collar, it's blue collar, hardworking people, and you
Yep.
can see that the football team and the players,
Yep.
they embrace that as part of the fandom and to the culture of what they're trying to build there. And, outside of maybe a couple of football players named Johnny Manziel, most football players who have played here have wonderful things to say about the city and the fans.
Johnny Manziel can go to hell. That's
oh my gosh. Yeah.
He's a
to
dweeb.
shut the hell up.
Yeah. He just needs to shut
Yeah.
up.
If he would have just given 1 ounce of iota to his playing as opposed to his partying, he might have had a chance at being a
What are
fairly
you
decent
looking
quarterback.
forward to this new dome? Are you not? Are you on board with this? Or it's going to happen now? Are you okay with what they're doing in Cleveland and the building the dome? Are you disappointed that they're not going to keep the team in Cleveland downtown?
100%, and I'll share it with you why. So,
Yeah.
I live in Dallas. I spend time between Dallas and Phoenix, and Jerry World down there, the new AT&T
Yes.
football stadium, what it has done for the local economy, for attracting worldwide sporting events. Do you know how many Ohio State football games I've attended in that stadium? I mean, I don't think they've lost in that stadium. But my point being is that it will attract so much more to the city of Cleveland.
Yes.
And revenue and hotel room night sales and restaurants and all these things that just don't exist right now. I remember, gosh, what year was it? It had to have been. It was the famous Snow Bowl against the Buffalo Bills.
Okay.
Maybe back in 14 or 15.
I think you're right. Yeah, it was right around there. Yeah.
I was at that game, and I took my son to the game. He's no longer with us. Love you, Trevor. But that was a memory I will never, ever, ever forget. But I was also at AT&T Stadium when Ohio State beat Oregon in an indoor stadium. And some people say, well, we'll lose the advantage of playing in Cleveland and the wind on the lake and all this stuff, but it hasn't done jack shit for us thus far. So you might as well move it to a stadium and let fans create their own new memories and bring more revenue and concerts and all kinds of things to the city. I think it's great. I don't have fault anybody for it at all.
Good. Yeah. Well, and I know there's been a lot of conversation leading up to this. The Haslams, they also own the Columbus Crew down here in the Columbus area, and fans here who are soccer mania and everything, they just love the Haslams and the stadium that they've built. I don't know if you've been in it yet, but it's awesome. It's just well put together. So and the Haslams this week, they agreed to help the city with this settlement or whatever, this extra $100 million or whatnot. So I'm excited too. Like you said, all these things that potentially will happen for the area. And plus it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes closer to Columbus. So I don't have to drive quite as far.
Well, I heard Haslam say that 80%, some huge number, maybe it's not 80, but of people that attend their football games come from more than an hour and a half away to watch. And especially for people in Southern Ohio who, Columbus, Cincinnati, wherever, that 20 minutes that from the airport to downtown that they're not going to have to do is, that's a big deal for them. And now I hear you, man.
It does make a difference mentally. I don't know what it is, but it's a long drive. But I'll tell you though, Doug, on the side note here, this is totally, but I had an opportunity to go and sit in the press box and do all those fun things a couple weeks ago with the Green Bay game. What a thrill. And I'm telling you, Doug, I don't remember a lick of the ride coming back from Cleveland to Columbus. I was on cloud 9 So
John,
had
I was
family.
living vicariously through you that day. I want you to know that. When you told me, when you sent me the text and said that you were in the press box, I was so freaking happy for you. And then you said, what was it when the Browns, you said, no, I'm not allowed to stand up and cheer.
Right,
But when
right.
when
But-
when the Browns blocked the field goal, you said,
Yeah.
I jumped up. I didn't say
Right,
anything.
right.
And then I
Yeah,
looked
right.
around and like, I'm the only one.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, it was, and they give you the credential pass, and that was, I got down there a little bit after some other people had gone into the locker room area, and the guy standing in front of the locker, he saw my credentials, and he was like, yeah, you can go on in. I'm like, oh my God, so
Yeah,
that was a really,
I loved your the sound bites that you put up when you
yes,
interviewed
yeah.
Schmitz.
Yes, Andre Schmitz.
Yeah.
Nice kid. When you meet these guys, they're so young. You and I, we've had our own kids and families, and so you meet these kids, and they're like, oh my God, you're just like my own kid. So just in how they talk, their mannerisms, all that stuff. It's very interesting. What the best part, though, at the moment when I initially walked in there, I explained to some other people that literally, I'm not kidding you, Doug, Joe Flacco is walking right at me to the point where, literally I could have given him a high five. He's really tall. And Shedeur was literally right behind him walking and had just thrown his hood over top of his head. And I could have, said, hey, Shedeur. But, I had to act professional. They say, don't mingle with the players.
What's the scoop? Are you going to be able to get back in there?
Yes. Yeah. I write for Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders as well, along with the Fanatical Elves and Fans First. With the Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders, Natalie Turk, she's just does an amazing job. And she's got some good connections in with the Browns now. I've tried to get in over the years, but now we've got that opportunity. So yeah, as long as I continue to write for this Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders, Natalie is able to get me into more games. So I'm looking forward to going there later next week. This week I'm going with my son, Clay. And then after that, we've got Baltimore coming to town, but I'm going to be out of town, so I won't be able to that. But there's a couple games coming up then against San Francisco at the end of November, and then the Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward, maybe Shedeur Sanders going at it. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
Well, just from a marketing play, I suspect that's the matchup we'll see.
Right.
If nothing else, the networks will make sure that happens.
Yeah. Doug, final thoughts, final takes on this evening. I'm just so happy that Doug has gotten on. We'll have to come on again, Doug. Again.
Absolutely.
It's just great to kind of reminisce. And like I said at the beginning of the show, Doug and I grew up together. Went to Worcester High School. We're in the band. Doug is was an amazing trumpet player over the years. Great student, great just musician. And Doug was like I said, a diehard fan. And it's just fun now. We're very old now. We're not very old, but it's funny to think how things have transitioned over the last 40 years pretty much. And got to see Doug a couple years ago when we had a reunion, I think back in June, a couple summers ago. So that was nice to reconnect. And I mentioned Doug on the other show, and I just wanted to give thoughts and prayers again to the Mark Beckler, our old classmate of ours. Unfortunately had an accident on a deep sea diving or what?
Scuba
diving. And so they had his memorial. I know many of people from Worcester and friends and family participated in some of that. So we're remembering Mark for that matter. So, but anyhow, it's just been nice to have Doug here today on the Johnny Cleveland Show. Like I said, I think Doug's a bigger fan than I am. I don't say that very often. When I was living in Kansas, I felt like I was the only, Cleveland fan.
I've never been the president of a Browns backers club before.
Yes.
John.
Well, they're rolling strong there. Josh is the president of the club there and of the Oz chapter. And I'll tell you, he's never been, he finally came to Cleveland like last summer, the new president of the club. But they just do a great job. And, there's the thing is, Doug, this too. You probably live in Phoenix and you probably have seen there are Browns backers clubs probably there in the area. And Browns fans are so united when it comes to
100%.
that fandom and following their team. And that's one thing that you and I have we've been loyal and committed fans.
Yeah. Well, John, I tell you, I want to thank you for having me on. I listen to you multiple times per week on your podcast. It makes my commute to work.
Thanks for being the one guy that does that. We really appreciate that.
Well, before we came on, when you were doing the podcast on just Facebook years ago, and sometimes there were nights where you were just talking to yourself, and I would log in, and it would just be you and I. But kudos to you.
I still do that, Doug.
for what you and your colleagues with the Fanatical Elves have put together. I tell you, there are a lot of people who are much younger than us who listen to the pain and the misery that we talk about.
Yeah. And
until you've lived through it, it's hard to put into words. In 2016, when the Cavs won the championship with LeBron, I bawled like a baby. Bawled like a baby.
Yeah.
And my son was just getting ready we were in Ohio. He was getting ready to do his freshman orientation at Ohio State.
Yes.
And we were watching the game at a lobby in a hotel. And when they won, I started bawling my eyes out. And I just gave him this big bear hug. And we embraced for about 90 seconds. And I just couldn't stop crying. And when we separated our hug, he looked at me and he goes, "Why are you crying, Dad?" And he just didn't understand it and get it. And I'm telling you, that parade, there were 3 million people downtown Cleveland.
Yeah.
And it will pale in comparison to what this city is going to do when the Browns win a Super Bowl. Yeah. And I don't want to sit here and say all of this pain will be worth it, but it will be generations upon generations upon generations of Browns fans and families that are going to come together. And it will be a party like we have never, ever, ever seen before.
I think.
I don't want to say that, as we suffer through this pain, that anything's going to be worth it. But when that day comes, and it will come, and I just hope that I'm still around for it.
Right.
And I want to be able to celebrate it with you. Right, buddy?
Yeah, that would be a dream come true. I think it's always a possibility. There's always that hope.
Yeah. What was the movie Dumb and Dumber where he says, what are the chances that you'd go out with me? And she's like, it's like less than 1 in a million. And he goes, so you're telling me there's a chance?
That's right. Well,
you're telling me there's a chance, John.
Yes. And it is so difficult. But like you just described with your son and that the feeling of just thankfulness and gratitude when the Cavs won it, I agree. And it's just one of those feelings. And then, so we've kind of gotten a taste of that. And the Browns would just be like quadrupled 10 times.
Oh my
1,000
gosh.
times.
Yeah.
So
there will be 16, 17-year-old high school buddies just like we were that will be embracing and jumping up and down and hugging each other as opposed to me busting the leg on your dad's couch. when we were I was so upset. I think when Ernest Miner fumbled that.
Oh, it was a devastating. Yeah, no,
oh my gosh.
It's a great moment in time, and it's a great story. We have lived those moments together, and hey, give a shout out to your parents that are there.
We'll do.
If they're watching
100%.
This later, just glad that they can watch this or listen to us later, and please say hi to your family. I'm just so happy to get to do this show with you tonight, and we'll have to do this again very soon.
Likewise, and I try to get back to Columbus, back to my old stomping grounds for at least one home game a year.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that we connect next time I'm in town.
Absolutely, I know. No, I see something. You've got, you went to Ohio State, so you're,
I did. Yep.
So that's great. It's just funny because when you're in high school and then you transition to these places and to college and stuff, and you start getting new friends and you go into the professions you are, and you develop all these new friendships and colleagues and stuff over the years. It's life is very fascinating. So it's always nice to get back and and reminisce a little bit. So, and we love sports. So
keep up the great work, John. Couldn't be happier for what you're doing here with the network.
Well, again, thanks for tuning in to the Johnny Cleveland podcast, part of Fans First. We will see you next time if I can find my music. There we go. See you, Doug.
Keep smiling.
Oh, that's right. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. I almost forgot, damn it.